Investigators moved quickly. The mansions, her bank account, even a trust fund opened in her daughter's name, all frozen. The morning of the raid, Amaka was preparing to fly to Geneva. She never made it to the airport. Instead, she stood barefooted in her living room, listening to the words she feared for years. You are under investigation for financial misconduct and money laundering under UK law. Her silence was brief. Then she smiled. Not a smile of guilt, but of the someone who knew this was just the beginning. Senator Tunde Okonkwo has spent 2 decades building his image first as a disciplinary military officer, then as a crusading formalist in Nigeria's turbulent political landscape. His posters were splashed across highways: integrity, leadership, legacy. But by June, his face had become something else: a meme, a scandal headline, a subject of even ridicule on prime-time TV. When news of Amaka's arrest broke in the UK, the Nigerian Senate chamber fell into chaos. Half the Senate walked out mid-session. The opposition demanded a public explanation. The speaker called for an emergency ethics hearing. On Twitter, the hashtag trended for days. But it didn't hold. Because 2 days later, an anonymous audio file leaked to the media, a phone recording between Senator Okonkwo and his wife. In it, Amaka's voice was cold and deliberate. I told you, we needed to split the roots. Ren warns us. Tunde, stop saying this over the phone. Are you mad? You like the mansions. You slept in silk sheets, bought with those wires. Now you want to act shocked? Tunde was silenced. The leak exploded like dynamite. Protesters stood outside the senator's Maitama's residence, holding placards. Return our money. This is not integrity. And Amaka for president. She did all the work anyway. Inside their marble compound, the couple sat in silence. That night, Amaka said it for the first time. You knew. You always knew. You just didn't want to get your hands dirty. Tunde didn't deny it. He just poured himself a drink and stared at the television, where the UK courts display frozen properties listed: apartments, cars, assets, bank accounts. One by one, the words closed in. But the worst blue didn't come from the courts or the press. It came from London. Their 22-year-old daughter, Zina, a university student with no knowledge of the laundry, suddenly found herself named as a trustee in one of the shell companies. She was dragged into the storm. Paparazzi camped outside her university. Her social media accounts were hacked. Private photos were leaked. A meme circulated of her crying as she left campus. Zina's tuition paid with blood oil. Devastated, she called her mother in tears. Why is my name on any of this, Mommy? What did he do? Amaka had no answers. She listened and listed Zina as a nominal board member to disguise the entity's ownership. It was supposed to be harmless, invisible, but now her child was paying the price for her ambition. Back in Abuja, Tunde held an emergency press conference and announced he was stepping down from 3 Senate committees to allow for an impartial investigation. But it was too late. The Okonkwo's, once the model power couple of Nigerian politics, had become a cautionary tale, a slow-motion implosion, televised for the world to watch. And somewhere in a secured holding house in South London, Amaka stared at the cold white ceiling and whispered the name to herself: Marcus. Because he still didn't been arrested. And if she was going down alone, she wasn't going down quietly. Southwark crowd caught Brussels like a behaved under pressure. Journalists lined up as early as 5 a.m., hoping for a seat inside. The crowd outside waved placards, some in support, others calling for Amaka's head. Major network live streams every step she took. Amaka Okonkwo stepped out of the police van wearing a navy blue suit and no makeup. Her hair was tied in a low bun. The once glamorous queen of Abuja elite looked stripped, but not broken. Inside courtroom 3, The gallery was packed. Senator Konko was nowhere in sight. The prosecution began with calm confidence. Barrister Joanna Clay, a meticulous woman with a razor-sharp voice, laid the foundation. This case is not about politics. It is not about fashion. It is not even about Nigeria. It is about fraud, deception, systematic laundering of public funds under the guise of charity and diplomacy. Then she dropped the exhibits. One by one, documents flashed across the screen. Bank transfers linked to Amaka's personal alias, M. Sunrise. Company registration document listing her daughter, Zina, as a board member. Emails recovered from a burner phone. Moved the $400,000 through the Cyprus chain. Backdate invoice by 9 days. Invoice memos between her and Marcus Wren. London is safe if we stay under $500,000 per trench. The defense objected. Context, Your Honor, these snippets are edited, but the damage was done. Next came the forcing accountant. He explained how over $9.1 million had quietly flowed through 12 dummy companies, 5 of which were registered under diplomatic aliases. He traced patterns of money being layered, integrated, and rerouted through luxury real estate, high-value art, and donation to shame institutions. Then they called the whistleblower. His face was hidden behind a screen. He testified that Amaka's charity in Dubai was a front and that employees were paid to falsify reports. The grant never went to students. They went to properties, brokers, and offshore consultants. Amaka stared straight ahead until the prosecution played the final piece, a secret recording of her speaking to Ren during a private dinner. You think Tunde had clean hands? He begged for that Dubai payout. I just did the work. A gasp filled the room. Outside, the press devoured it. Headline screams. Senator's wife implicated husband in secret tapes. The €400,000 transfer was just the beginning. Prosecutors reveal €9 million trail. Finally, Amaka was called to the stand. Her lawyer advised against it. She ignored him. In a calm voice, she spoke. I am not innocent, but I am not the only guilty one. This system, both here and at home, feeds on shadows. I played the game. I just played it better than most. They called me a trophy wife, a strategist, a queen. But I was just trying to survive in a world built by men who steal every day and hide behind their position. I protected my daughter the best I could. I regret involving her. That was never part of the plan. Her voice cracked then. The only movement she showed emotion. The judge adjourned. Deliberations would begin the following week. But outside the courtroom, the damage was already done. Senator Konko was issued a summons by Nigeria's anti-graft agency. Multiple senators distanced themselves. International watchdogs called for a full audit of all charity-linked political families. And inside a locked room in the Canary Wharf high-rise, Marcus Wren quietly booked a one-way ticket to Argentina under a fake name. He had no plans of testifying, but Amaka knew one thing. If she failed, she would drag the entire network with her. The verdict came on a grey Tuesday morning. The courtroom was silent as the jury, 4 men rose. Amaka sat still, back straight, lips pressed tight. Her lawyer would meet her eyes. On the charge of money laundering, guilty. On the charge of wire fraud, guilty. On the charge of knowingly concealing criminal property, guilty. A hush rippled through the gallery, followed by the frantic tapping of reporters. Keyboards, the judge, in his crimson robes, pronounced sentence. Amaka Okonkwo, the severity of your action and the scale of deceptions warrant a custodial sentence of 7 years in prison. This court also authorized the permanent seizure of the Surrey property and the full proceeds of related criminal enterprises. Amaka blinked once. She didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She just whispered something under her breath. Later, A lip reader claimed it was, "You'll owe me, Marcos." Back in Nigeria, the storm was just beginning. Senator Tunde Okonkwo, now politically radioactive, was stripped of all committee roles and placed under EFCC investigation. His passports were seized. His political allies fled like rats from a sinking ship. In a dramatic twist, two separate oil contractors were arrested and named him in a plea deals. Payment tied to fake agricultural projects, foreign scholarships, and charity invoices came under renewed scrutiny. The man who once dreamed of running for a president now found himself facing the possibility of exile or imprisonment. His only ally left, silence. Zina, meanwhile, vanished from public view. After withdrawing from university, she released a short video on social media, sitting alone, barefaced, wearing a black hoodie. "I didn't know, I swear to you. I didn't know. I'm not my mother. I'm not my father. I just wanted to study biology and make something of myself. Please, stop sending death threats. I didn't choose this life." The video racked up over 3 million views in 3 days. Support poured in. A UK human rights organization offered her therapy. A small university in New Zealand quietly offered her admission with full protection. Zina accepted. She changed her name, started all over, and left the Okonkwo legacy behind. Amaka's final move came from behind bars. A reporter for The Guardian, who had chosen and closely followed her case, received an anonymous envelope in the mail. Inside was a thin leather-bound journal titled "The Network: Notes from the Inside" by A.O. The entries were dated, coded, and chilling. One read, "Ren was just a broker. Real power sat in the ambassador's dining room in 2019. The UN grant, the fake cancers research fund. They were testing how far we could go. I thought I was smart, but I was just a useful pawn." Another, names, bank codes, date, stored somewhere only Zena can find, in case I never walked free again. The journal hinted at a much larger web across continents. It didn't just implicate Nigerian officials. It referenced European MPs, charity CEOs, and even UN liaisons, a super web of high society laundry that had used Africa as a front, and wives like Amaka as disposable countries and couriers. In the end, the Surrey mansion stood empty, the windows shuttered, the once lush garden overgrown, and somewhere far from courtrooms and microphones, Amaka Okonkwo sat in her prison cell, staring at the wall, repeating a line, and she had once told Marcus Wren over campaign. They said the wife always knows too much, but they now expect her to know everything. She did, and she was just getting started. In a world where corruption often fueled and hides behind charity, and power wears a tailored suit, one woman dared to play the game too well. But even the most brilliant crimes leaves a trail, and when the trails lead to truth, no mansion is safe, no name is untouchable. This wasn't just a scandal, it was a warning, because the real story is still unfolding. What if she wasn't the only one? Do well to subscribe to this channel in order to follow the full story and investigation. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.